Okay. We're going to be talking about the title is Convert's Cross of Sustaining Faith and How to Navigate Through the Spiritual Desert. Which, by the way, you don't have to be a convert, new in the church to have you'd have gone into the spiritual desert. This happens for any Christian, and I believe it has happened to all of us at some point in our Christian lives. Hi, Simon. Nice to see you. Um, so we're going to be talking about mostly about this dry desert time in our lives because it's a difficult time. It's not an easy time, as we all know. Um, I'm going to give you a description of how I think it is, how that feeling is, so you all can relate. I'm going to tell you about my experiences, and then I'm going to ask you all your experiences. We're going to share all that. I have a video, a short clip to show you, and then what the advice is and all that's involved. So, okay. So anyway, let's start with the fact that you feel when you go into this dry spell, as I call it, God feels millions of miles away. You do not feel like he is there. Um, it's not a comforting feeling. It's very uncomfortable feeling. Okay. And then you have these your spiritual practices that you've always been doing. They feel lifeless, kind of flat, like they don't really mean anything when you're in that moment. And it can be a long moment, believe me. And then you just really don't have any connection to God. You just don't feel like you have any connection to God. You start to feel like, why am I doing any of this? Why am I still going to church? Why am I praying? Why am I even trying to read, the Bible or the spiritual books like on the saints? It just doesn't feel like it's worth it, right? You just feel nothing's going on in your spiritual life. And you feel trapped in this place too for quite a while. You feel like you're trapped in this desert, like you're wandering in the desert with nobody. Sure, you can get some advice. You say, "Oh, I'm in this dry spell, Father." You go to your spiritual father and he'll give you some advice. But I found that only you'll have to go through this on your own. You can't, there is nothing anybody can really do. It's one of those things you have to experience and go through pretty much by yourself. So that's the first thing. And then I actually had, so this happened to me 3 times in my life. The first one was actually when I was very involved in my church many years ago, and I felt very connected to God, and I was reading material, spiritual material all the time. Very, very, very dedicated at that time. And all of a sudden, out of the blue, there was that period. And then I will say the second one was when my husband at the time, he went to go to seminary, which didn't work out, but we had to move there. And I was kind of torn on that because I was really connected to my church, but I went anyway. And so I felt very disconnected in Boston. And the environment there just wasn't really great to me. So I really had a crisis of faith actually at that time there. And it took me probably about 3 years to come out of that. I know that's a long time. And the last time was during and after my divorce, which was very hard. And I just started coming out of that probably a year ago, well, almost 2 years ago. So that was another like 3-year thing. Here's those Orthodox three, everything's three for Orthodox. But anyway, so the shortest one was the first one when I was, very dedicated to God. So if that is any sign of anything, that might be helpful to know. Um, what did I do during that time of wandering around in the desert after saying, "Well, what's the use?" That's what you feel like. What's the use? Well, I went to church as much as I could. I still prayed, still read when I could, not as often as I was, but still at times. I felt like if I didn't do that, I might lose my faith. I kind of got worried about things. I was like, "Oh, I've got to do something. I've got to keep doing this," even though it felt like I was just going through the motions. And I think all of us probably have felt like that, right? All of us have felt that way. Just going through it, and okay, I don't know what this is going to do for me, but I'll just keep doing it, right? So, that's what happened with me. Now, did you all have a similar experience when you were if you I mean, I assume you all have been in this, but if you want to share in the chat, I'll read up on what's going on with you all on that because it's a pretty intense time of nothingness, really, which how you want to put it. So, Anne, Simon, if you want to share anything on that, if you've had any experiences, that would be great. Oh, as a catechumen, you can relate to this. That's interesting. So, how is it for a catechumen to be going through this valley, this trough of dryness? I mean, that's very interesting. I've never heard that from catechumens. So, if you could let me know, that would be great. How that could be for you. Have you had that, Anne? Anybody else? I'm very curious about that. Okay, so you were in the Catholic Church. You said, yeah, I was also, and the Catholic Church did not want me. So they didn't want you. Wow, okay, that's kind of uh, disturbing, really. I do know a person, one of the guys that live with us. He's a friend of ours, and he said that he was never close to the church because his mother took him, but he felt that he didn't have a relationship with any of the priests, even the priest at his church or anything. There was kind of this disconnect between the priest and the congregation is what he felt like. And then I found out that they don't really do the whole spiritual father thing like we do. And I just thought that was interesting because obviously I didn't know too much about Catholics or Protestant because that hasn't been my experience. So, Simon, what happens with a catechumen in a spiritual desert? I would love to know. My prayer life has been better since becoming a catechumen, but things like my career and other aspirations like school have all fallen flat. Oh, yes. Well, there's always that issue also when you're coming to the church. Sometimes it can be a real struggle to actually start doing the catechumen, start, in the process of being um, coming into the church. You can have the evil one doesn't want you coming to the church. So sometimes there's these hurdles that are put up, and there's these things that cause you more distress the more determined you are to get into the church. I've heard this through many people, that are going through this conversion process. So hang in there because don't give up on all that. Yeah, it's difficult, but good that your prayer life has been better because that's what you really need right now is your prayers because of what you're going through. So good to know that. I have heard of those type of things. That's not great to go through that. So anyway, if anybody else has something they want to share on that, because I really do believe everybody has had this moment It's not like we don't have any experience in this at all. It's especially with so much distraction around. There's so much distraction around, uh, your world because of all of the intensity of media and everything, and it can get very. We're not supposed to take in that much at one time anyway, as I'm sure your priests have told you. So it can be difficult. It can be really difficult. But my opinion is, and I think as long as you keep going to church, you keep praying, you keep reading the scriptures when you can. I was doing the daily readings on my phone. That's uh, easy enough. So you just read the epistle and the gospel, and you get through it that way. So eventually you come out of that. But sometimes it can be long, and sometimes it can be a shorter amount of time. Um, there's reasons. It just depends on the circumstances of why, the type of desert that you went through. I mean, all three of mine were different, So I have a video, a short one, that I want to share about this issue. It's going to be Father Josiah Trenum. He's going to be he's going to read a little bit of just a clip of letter 8 from the Screwtape, the C.S. Lewis's Screwtape letters, because I think he was using that as an example of what happens in the desert. I found it very interesting. What do you say, Ann? I have been in Orthodox since Easter, studying about it and studying daily and prayer about it. Oh, that's good. That's good. That's good. Wow. Okay. Let me see if I can actually bring this up. I'm always trying to figure out how to do these things. But let me try and see if I can bring this up. And okay, now let me see, and then I'll see if actually the sound will work. Pages side by side in the same tabs. Remind me later. Okay, I'm going to start this, and then let me know if you can hear. No, I don't hear anything. I have to turn it on.
In the state of dryness are those which please him best. He cannot tempt to virtue the way we do divides. He wants them to learn to walk and must therefore take away his hand like a parent setting an infant down who's learning to walk and walking back. The parent has to recede so that the young one can learn to walk, even though it feels abandoned, even though it looks towards its mother with its hands out. Why have you left me? Why have you left me? It is so that the child can walk. Yes. He wants them to learn to walk and must therefore take away his hand. And if only the will to walk is really there, he is pleased even with their stumbles. Do not be deceived, Wormwood. Our cause is never more in danger than when a human, no longer desiring, but still intending to do our enemy's will, looks round upon a universe from which every trace of him seems to have vanished, and asks why he has been forsaken, and still obeys.
Okay, that part is huge, I found. So what he's saying is what we've been doing. You just continue to do, even though it feels like you're just going through the motions. That is the most important part. That's what God really just wants to see, our efforts, to see how we do, and to realize also at that time that we need God. So we continue on that path is what he's saying there. And then he's going to tell you what can be done about that, or how to do this. So I'm going to go back and turn that back on.
Wow. What an incredible conclusion to this speech on spiritual dryness. We never grow more, and we never defeat the evil one more than when we, even though we don't have the desire, even though there are no feelings supporting our obedience, nevertheless, we keep our intention, which is not based on desire. No longer desiring, but still intending to do God's will, looking around upon a universe from which every trace of Him seems to have vanished. We feel horrible and abandoned and unsupported. We ask in prayer, Lord, why are you abandoning me? And we still obey. This is how a Christian becomes strong. And this.
So, yeah, that's the most important thing there. As you see what he's saying, this is how we grow, right? This is how we get closer, actually. You know, afterwards you grow, but you also, after you get out of that trough of the desert, you actually, your faith intensifies. I don't know if you all have noticed that, but it is true. And I think he's done, but let me just see exactly.
This is the purpose of spiritual dryness. So the conclusion is, dear ones, we do not want a world at this moment in our life when we are working out our salvation with fear and trembling. We do not want a world in which we're always up, in which we always feel supported by our emotions, in which there are no valleys, because we will never grow. We will never hone our freedom. We will never bend.
Yeah, so he's basically saying, yes, we'll never grow, which is true. And that's why we go through these spiritual deserts. Because I think, it's kind of a test. God is testing you. God is testing you to see how you'll do. Not totally separated, but away. So his grace is not on you, and it's not, you don't feel it, to see how you do in that moment. Like he said with the parent and the child, oh, you need to learn to walk. I think that's a great analogy. So that is a really important point. I really enjoyed what he had to say. I like that he used C.S. Lewis's Screwtapes, true Screwtape letters. I have not exactly read but one or so of that. I have a collection of C.S. Lewis, a book. My favorite one I've read is The Great Divorce. But in any case, amazing importance to why we go through this. And I think the most what we hope is, if we are in another spiritual desert, we actually remember that, yeah, this is part of my growth. I'm going to come out of the valley, and I'm going to rise and climb the mountain again and be up again. I'm going to grow. I'm going to strengthen my faith. I hope that we can remember that when we're in it. And it's very hard to do that when we're in it. But if we are able to do that, I think it'll help us. I think it'll even motivate us more to work toward that, and be able to keep on that path. Much easier than just don't get caught up in that dry spell and just totally forget, because it's so easy to do that. Really. Really, it is. So anybody have anything they want to add to this? Can you relate to what he was saying? Does it make sense to you? Yes, you say yes, you believe it. Very true. Yeah. Do you think you're actually going to remember that when you're in it? That's the real test. That's the real trick. So we'll see what you all have to say on that. But any experiences that you've had, I'd love to hear it. As I said, mine were difficult, but I never, lost my faith, which is important. I don't know if anybody does during that time, but it is a test. I think it's one of the tests that God puts us through, so that we can I mean, there's a quote from a desert father that said something like, "Without temptations, you'll never grow. You know, you're just going to be in the same spot." Okay, so Simon says, as I'm currently in this trial, it's reading the lives of the saints, which has helped me a lot. That is excellent. Yes. Yes. There is such inspiration when you read the saints. They really give you the encouragement you need to get through difficult times. I really believe that. I mean, and that's why the saints are so important, because I think it's very difficult when people come in the church, they don't know what to do with the issue of the saints. You know, how do I pray? How do I ask them? I mean, like I said in my last live stream, it took me 10 years to ask prayers of the saints, which again, I'm glad I did. But yeah, it's important. The saints really help you. It's a really great aid, spiritual aid. I'm glad you brought that up because it does. It makes a real big difference. And you say you had a brain lesion removed and lost your total memory and had to depend on God for my memory. Wow. Had to pray how to read and write again. Oh my gosh, so sorry. And that you went through that. That's a very traumatic experience. Um, thank God, that he helped you through that. Glory to God on that. Read and write again. That's a lot of work, a lot there. That how long did it take you to get through that? I mean, to learn to read and write and do all that again. I can't imagine. Oh, that's great. You could drive now. That's great. Still driving. I mean, that's amazing. Glory to God. Um, brain. That sounds like somewhat of a brain injury. So that that's not easy. That's a traumatic injury, and that is, yes, glory to God that you're able to do all that now. That's great. Yeah. hmm So, anybody want to add any other thoughts on this? Yes, glory to God. Yeah, amazing. So that's what I basically wanted to talk to you about. If you had anything else you want to ask, it's an open Q&A, whatever you feel like you want to say, whether on this or not, go ahead and share it in the chat and I'll do what I can. 15 years and still going. 15 years since your brain lesion. Wow. Wow, amazing. Okay. That's great, Ann. That's great. As we said, thank God. Thank God. So, anybody have any questions for me in just an open Q&A before we wrap this up? Let me know. Whatever you might be thinking on this subject or whatever, I'm open to whatever you want to say for the next few minutes. So, anybody? Any other thoughts? I'm looking. Okay. Yes. Yes, yes. Okay. Well, if nobody has any more questions and they were able to get what this was edifying to them, I hope so, then we're ready to wrap it up. And I thank you all so much for attending this live stream, for your insightful and thoughtful chat responses, questions, and your experiences. It always helps to have that. So thanks again. And I'll see you in another live stream and then hopefully not too long in the future. Thanks so much. In the Orthodox, I am new, seems so new. Yes. All right. So you all have a blessed day. God bless you all. And we'll see you in the next one.